Hello, everyone. This is Tammy Fisher with In the Doll World, and I'm here today with my wonderful co-host, Miss Georgette Taylor.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, Miss Georgette. And today we're excited to introduce you to Joe MacPhale. Joe is the owner of Joe MacPhale Fine Art Studio, and he is also a jeweler and doll maker. I mean, he's just someone who's just doing lots of wonderful things. So we're excited to talk to Joe about his journey and to introduce you to him. So hello, Joe. Thank you for
Hello,
joining
Joe.
us today.
Hello, everybody. I'm doing great.
Great.
Good.
Good to
You're
hear.
looking great today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Joe, we're going to start you where we start everyone, and that is please tell us about your doll journey. And we want to know where it began and how it led from there to where you are now.
When I
So,
was about 6 years old,
mm-hmm,
I grew up with my grandparents, which I call mom and dad. My mother was a seamstress, and my father was an industrial mechanic for J.C. Penney's, and he used to
okay,
fix all the sewing machines. So when we were little, my sister and I, we used to go to the factory,
mm-hmm,
and I started to enjoy the smell of the oils and how everything moved in the machine. So
mm-hmm,
my dad taught me all the mechanics and so forth. So from that age on, I start taking things apart, putting them back together, and so forth. My mother had remnant of fabrics, and then she will make what is called a yo-yo, which you have a circle, and then you stitch around, pull it, and it makes a round shape.
mm-hmm,
Mhm.
So we stack that with a needle and thread, and it looks almost like a Gumby. And
mm-hmm.
that was my first doll that I ever made when I was
Okay,
6 years old.
okay,
From there on, I met one of my neighbors when I was about 14,
mm-hmm,
and she did ceramics. So she taught me the way to do ceramics and porcelain. And by the age of 16, I had my first collection out. And
wow,
Wow.
yeah, they were static. It was nothing moved, but they had lace on it that you drip in the porcelain, and then you dress the doll, and then when you fire that, the cotton lace will burn and you end up with the skeleton of the lace. It's very fragile, but it's
wow.
beautiful. So that's how I start my journey doing those. I've been sculpting since I was 6 years old. This year I'll be 62.
You
Wow.
were sculpting since you've been six?
Yes,
Wow,
right. And
that's
competing,
great.
yes.
And
So
Wow.
competing all that time? Wow.
yes.
That's
I remember
incredible.
back in 1969 we had a competition and I had an abstract on and they also have a collage of the man in walking in the moon, and it was about 36 inches by 22. And we exhibit that. I have the first prize of that, and then about an hour later, they removed the prize and they said that I wasn't allowed to have the prize because they thought that it was too good for my age, and my teacher had assisted me in it.
Oh,
So they
no.
took my
Wow.
prize away, and I never competed again in my life
Oh.
until about the 1989,
Hmm.
which I started playing the bagpipes. And through playing the bagpipes, I started competing again, but in different media. This way it
Hmm.
was music. And eventually I got a gold medal on it. And then from there, I went to Scotland to compete in the World Championship, playing the
Wow.
bagpipe with the band. So representing the
Cool.
sheriff department in Florida. And it was a great experience. I spent 16 days there. Then I came back home. Unfortunately, 9/11 happened, and you know how all that went through.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And then I met my husband in 2004. And we went to Disney and we went to a store and we were looking at Giuseppe Armani porcelain
Yes.
Hmm.
sculptures.
Scorpion.
And I said to him, "This is the way I sculpt." And he started laughing. And and I said, "I'm gonna prove it to you." So then in 2004, I start sculpting when I was traveling. So from hotel to hotel, I will sculpt and bring the sculpture back home and finish them. And then I start producing a line. So of course, he ate his words and he didn't laugh anymore. I proved him
It's like
wrong.
I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna whip out this sculpture. You're gonna be
Exactly.
yes.
Look what I
And
can
now
do.
in 2007, I became a flight attendant for a very short time. And when I was traveling, I checked out of the guild, and Jack Johnson invited me to a meeting of the guild. And I went to the meeting, I met everyone, and then I became a member. So I've been a member of the guild since 2007, and that
Mhm.
launched my career again into sculpting. We have a show that was called IDEX in Orlando, Florida,
Hmm.
and I brought one of my automatons, which is called Shaylee, and it's Queen of the Forest. And this automaton have the wings move. She float in the mid-air with a wand, and then the more you look, the more you see. You have a full moon, you have the aurora borealis, you have fireflies, the flowers will glow, the mist of the forest will come down, and they have a sensor that when you're walking, the whole thing trigger and the whole thing comes alive with music, the sound of the forest, and all that. So that was my first piece coming out as a professional
Wow.
doll maker, and it was
Okay.
Wow.
great.
So let's
Wow.
back up for a sec.
Sure.
So you talked about the piece you did in
Mhm.
where
Grade
where
school.
they took your prize
Mhm.
back. Was
Yes.
that fabric or was that
It was a
sculpture?
collage of rope, stone, paper mache, and we had some kind of crystals in it.
Mhm.
Okay.
They were like looking like rubies. You know how you open those rocks that you see the crystals
The
inside?
geodes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
correct,
Yeah.
like a
Mhm.
geodome, but just the crystals out of the geo. And that's how I make the piece. And it was all encased in a wooden frame. So, and it was like a 3D thing.
Yeah,
And
Wow.
assemblage.
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
Right. Okay. And
Okay.
how old were you then? You said?
oh, Jesus, I was in sixth grade.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
That's 11?
Yeah. Somewhere
yeah,
around there,
something like
around
that.
10 or 11.
Yes.
Yeah, it,
Wow.
it tore my heart up, and
I was
that's
gonna
why I never
say,
competed
Yeah.
again.
that's
Yeah.
so, it's
I
so interesting when you said that because I just always think about how words and how actions of other people can really, it can propel you, but it can really just knock the wind out of you. And I don't think people and teachers and counselors, there's so many stories. I've listened to so many stories of people in my lives that said they went to counselors in school and, they wanted to be this and their counselor was like, oh, you can't be that. I mean, and the things that people say, and
Mhm.
do to kids, I don't think they understand how it can truly affect,
Correct.
somebody. And that really affected you, I think, for a lot of your life. And I think that was just very traumatic for you.
Yes.
And it just kind
Yes.
of shut you down. I don't think that's, yeah, that made me sad when you said that.
It took my kind
Yeah.
of like part of my soul die, that day.
Yeah.
My
Yes.
inspiration and the whole thing. It's just like I put so much work in it. And then for them to think that my teacher did it,
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
I'm happy
That's
that
sad. Yeah.
your path took you back
Hmm.
to
Yes,
creativity.
Your
So that's
passion found a
beautiful.
way to show up again.
Yes.
correct. Yes.
We're happy that your husband said you didn't sculpt like that.
Yes, right.
Thank you to your husband. Yay. Now we have all these wonderful dolls.
Correct. And then after we start making additions to going to show, then he went crazy. He was like pulling people to see my artwork and all that. I said,
Oh.
sweetheart, you don't do that. You scare people that way.
And you also said you were part of the guild and you didn't say which guild. So you want to
Oh,
tell
the
us the guild?
professional door maker art guild.
Okay, the Professional Doll Makers Art Guild.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm also a NIADA member.
Okay, wow.
Yes. In 2016, I became a NIADA member. And my main piece that I brought and I specially made was the Marilyn Monroe automaton.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I,
that's a hard one to get into.
yes, yes. What I did, I took a year off after I did my portfolio to finish a piece.
Okay.
And then, so basically, took me just one shot to get
Okay.
in, but it was a year apart because I needed to finish the piece.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So they
Okay.
allowed me to have that year to produce a piece to go into the convention and
Hmm.
be voted in.
Hmm.
Okay.
That's big time to be a NIATA member.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Congrats.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so
Congratulations.
much.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Very few people make that one.
Yes.
Yeah. So so you said you also are a Disney metalsmith. So how did
I
that work with
started.
your
I
role?
moved to Florida in 1979. So
Okay.
I've been here 42 years, and I have worked at Disney 42 years. And my
Whoa.
goal was to become a Disney Imagineer. That's why I moved after I graduated from high school to Orlando to become a Disney Imagineer, which it never happened. It's a long story, but to make it
What's it,
short,
what is
my
Imagineer?
Imagineer is the ones that designs all the attractions and all everything that you see in the park. That's called
Okay,
a
Okay.
so like
Disney
an
Imagineer.
engineer,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
an okay, okay,
They call it
okay,
an Imagineering
okay,
or Imagineer.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
okay.
So that was the purpose of it. Now my first job in 1979, I became a professional ice skater for this.
Wow.
I started ice skating when I was 14. And when I moved in 1979, I trained for a year with Penny Jackson from the Ice Capettes, and
Okay.
and it was a small tank in Orlando, owned by a gentleman. He was 83. He was from Hungary, and he taught me how to juggle on ice and different tricks. So I learned all that, and then I trained with Penny Jackson, and then we used to compete to see who lasts longer spinning. And
Wow.
eventually, I surpassed her. I could spin without stuff for over a minute. And
Wow.
yeah, that was real great when I did shows in Disney just for the holidays for Christmas.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You have the characters and all that, and then we did different numbers. And I used to have dry ice over the ice, and then
Mm-hmm.
I would do a sit spin where I vanish into the dry ice and I said pull it up and make a tornado. It was
Mm.
really
Oh,
cool.
wow.
So I enjoyed skating until 1997. I hung up my skates because of my back, all the fallings
Oh.
and accidents. So I
Hmm.
couldn't skate
Hmm.
anymore. And I've been a photographer at Disney. I did attractions, ice skating, you name it, I've done it. And the latest thing, I've been the master designer for the silversmithing and goldsmithing at Disney for 27 years, the last 27 years.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And
That's
how does
amazing.
that, yeah, that is amazing. How does that tie into your dolls
Well,
art?
learning jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see in my dolls, all the jewelry is a process that I develop, and I make miniaturized jewelry where sometimes I do 24 karat gold, sometimes I plate them in nickel or silver and so
Hmm.
forth. So that taught me how to produce the jewelry that I use now in my collection.
Hmm.
Like
Okay.
if you look at Marilyn Monroe, it is a copy of the opening number of Gentlemen Prefer Blonde.
Hmm.
Okay.
And I went to the internet and I found the original design of the dress,
Mm-hmm.
which it was open, I think it was to the left, the original design open to the right.
Okay.
So I produced the day dress on it on the original, which is open to the right.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the, is that the
And
pink, that's the pink dress with the
it's the
diamonds on
red
it?
dress that is all
Hmm.
sequins, and she have a hat, and she have makes the whole necklace. And so
Okay.
I reproduce all the jewelry that you see in that number in the movie to exactly the same replica of the original jewelry that she
Wow.
wore on the dress.
Wow.
And that's the automaton of Marilyn Monroe that move and pose and blink, and every
Hmm.
3.5 minutes she will cycle.
Okay.
Wow.
And
Okay.
So talk
then
to, okay, go
at
ahead.
the bottom of the base, there's a window that is black,
Mhm.
of course. But when the actual mechanics start, there's a light that illuminates through the window, and you can see all the gears and the cams. The cams are made out of crystal clearly, so you can actually see through. And then all the gears and all that, they're plated in 24 karat gold.
Wow. All the gears are
Wow.
plated with 24 karat gold.
Correct. Yeah,
Wow.
Wow.
You're
I do all the
busy.
plating myself.
Wow.
Wow.
That's amazing work.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wow.
So, so it sounds like, if I'm correct, is your specialty, or at least one of your specialties, the automatons?
That's one of my specialties. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And explain to our viewers and listeners what an automaton is.
An automaton, well, the way I made it is in the 1700s, and it's where all the mechanical. What happened is back then, the urologists, which is the ones that make timepieces like clocks and watches and all that, they want to portray the art to a different level. So they start making figures that look like human and they will move. So what I've done is I replicated that where if you were to take the doll apart, the doll inside is literally like a clock. It has pinions and gears and levels
Oh,
and all
okay.
that. Now the leg that is static, there's a rod that is about a quarter inch in square, and then through that rod, the cams, which are discs in different shapes, they move and then they push the rods up. And then by that action, it actuates all the mechanics inside the doll, and the doll will move and pose. And that's how that works.
Mhm.
So it's
Okay.
in like an automated doll. It
Mhm.
blinks, and well, depending upon what you do,
Yeah,
it just basically, if
Mhm.
you think of it, it has like an almost like an engine inside of it, and it does whatever it is
It's
correct.
programmed to do. You
programmed
can
to
move its
do.
arms
Mhm.
or wings or
Yes,
okay, thank you. Because I don't know how many people know that term. I learned it a few years ago. There was a movie about
Hugo.
yeah, Hugo. That's when I learned about automatons. So I don't know how many people know about them, and that's an amazing process. And I ended up going to look up some information about them and just saw these amazing creations.
The French
So,
were one of the ones that actually took that art to a max level.
mhm,
And automaton is one. When you're talking about many, the word is automata.
Okay.
So
okay,
Automata.
when you
Mhm.
see that word, that means that there are many of them. It's a plural.
Okay.
okay,
Instead of saying automatons, you don't.
okay,
Mhm.
okay. Thank you. I learned
My
something new
pleasure.
today.
Yeah.
Automata. Okay. Very cool.
So, tell us some more about your journeys.
Yeah, in 1986 to 89, I went to school for electronics.
Okay.
And I took 2 years of electronics. Back then, it's not like today. Today, you just buy a chip that is about the size of a pinhead and plug it in. Back then, you had to actually put all the components together
Mhm.
and to make something this big that might move something very limited.
Hmm.
So it's not like electronics today. You just go to the store, buy a chip, plug it in, and then you're good to go. I mean, you can put a computer nowadays in your finger
Hmm.
Mhm.
because of technology. So what I did for those 2 years, I learned the basic of electronics, which it talks about electricity, how it run, and different components, and so forth. To make the story short, I decided in my artwork to incorporate the electronics with the artwork, and that's now what you see. They blink, they move, and so forth. I do design my PC boards,
Mm.
and of course they're miniature. They're about the size of a nickel right now.
Okay,
And
Wait,
that's a
wait.
then,
small PC
Wow.
yes,
board.
I
it's
was gonna say,
small.
what?
Yeah, so
Did you
And
say a nickel?
yeah,
Okay.
for
a
someone,
nickel, yeah, they go inside the head, actually.
okay. So for
And
someone who doesn't know what a PC board is, that
Wow.
is like the brain of your computer. So that's
correct.
what he's
The
talking
PC
about
board
now.
is actually the breadboard where you put all the components
Hmm.
that will
Mhm.
do an action for you.
Right.
Hmm.
So the process I use is basically like think of developing a photograph. You have a film, you have a negative, and then you merge those two, you expose it to UV for a certain amount of time, then you take that out, and then you peel the plastic off, and then you apply the liquid, and you develop the actual board, and anything that didn't heat the UV, then it washed out.
Hmm.
And then you end up with actually a copper board. Then of course you do that. I myself I'll do like 10 of a time. So it's all together in one plate. And then once it's developed, then you drill it, and then you have like a people know what a silk screen is, like
Mhm.
printing shirts and
Hmm.
so forth. Then I have a metal sheet which goes on top of the board, and then you squish the silver in it.
Mhm.
You
Okay.
you take that out
Right.
like you printed a shirt, and
Mhm.
then you put all the miniature components, sorry, and then once you do that, then you put it in the oven and you bake it, and all the components will solder by itself.
Oh,
Okay.
so you don't
That's how
use
you solder
soldering. You
them.
don't solder
Okay.
it.
The solder
Okay.
is actually the ink paste, and you squidge
Okay.
Okay.
it. You squidge it in like you print in a shirt, and then
Okay.
Okay.
once you do that and it's all baked, then you cut the different chips, and then you assemble the other electronics that that chip will move. In
Okay.
this case, will be blinking eyes.
Okay.
And
Wow.
you have to design how much it's gonna blink, what's the human blink, which is on a female is about 15 to 16 blinks per minute. So you have to take all that in account. So when she blink, it looks like an actual person blinking.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Wow. That's
And
fascinating.
that's how I do all that electronic stuff.
My husband would
Okay.
love you, honestly.
Exactly.
And honestly, because he loves electronics. He's put together radios when he was little, soldering stuff. I mean, he's a maintenance engineer. He's been
Oh wow.
he works has been working in television for almost 30 something years, but he loves auto, anything automatic. He wanted to, like you said, he wanted to grow up and do a lot of that stuff, but they didn't know what he was talking about when he was younger. And so they kind of, like pushed him aside. And so, but he still puts together stuff. He can fix anything,
It's
honestly.
it's
Yeah.
amazing
He would love that.
how
Yeah.
your brain work, and your
Mhm.
peers,
Yes.
and people tell you, oh, you can't do that, and all of a sudden you find a way. It's like a challenge. You find
Hmm.
a way of how to do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm just listening to that. So amazing. That's great.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
My brain does not work like that.
Honestly, I can't sleep because even in my dreams, I am creating something. So it is
Wow.
it is hard for my brain to disconnect. I'm always
Yes.
creating something.
Wow.
Wow.
I could see that.
So, do you want to show us your beautiful lady back there?
Yes, please.
Oh, sure, sure.
It's
Hold on a
gorgeous.
second. I'm actually doing a class now, recording a class on how to make real shoes for dolls.
Okay.
And it is
Nice.
made exactly how a real shoe, but in miniature.
Okay.
Okay.
And she's the
Wow,
queen
she's
of Egypt.
beautiful.
And you can see the geese, the Egyptian geese,
Hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
front. And as you turn it, then you see the scarab that you usually see in the Egyptian tomb.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes.
That's
And the
gorgeous.
button you see back here is to actually activate the blinking mechanism. Unfortunately, the batteries ran out, so I cannot show you.
It's okay.
And of
Is
Nice.
course,
she
Beautiful.
articulated? I'm
yes,
trying to see
she's
her
the ball
arm.
jointed doll, and it's a double ball jointed.
Oh,
So
I thought she was
the
porcelain.
the arms move just
Hmm.
Okay.
like a human, and you can
Okay.
post them just like a human.
Wow.
Wow.
So,
She's
what is she
pretty.
made from?
Yeah, what is
Is
she
she
She's
made?
resin?
made out of resin, but the way I
Okay.
finish the resin, it looks like porcelain.
Okay, because that's what I thought she was. She was
Everybody think
porcelain.
it's porcelain, but it's not.
Yes. Okay.
And I have like 6 different ones with different dresses and
Hmm.
Hmm.
so on for the collection.
Hmm.
But they're
Okay.
all blink. That's my new thing.
Okay.
Um,
And
You're talking about the
you're
shoes.
talking about the shoes and the dress.
Hmm.
yes, correct. The dress is very difficult to make because I had to go in the computer program and then design all the embroidery, and
Okay.
all that is like a puzzle. So when you
Hmm.
embroider that, it had to be to a perfect size to match. And then once that's done, each piece of the embroidery, then you have to stitch to actually make the bust.
So, are you hand stitching, or do you have a machine that's doing the
This
stitching?
this is machine, but
Okay.
what you see over here, let me show you a little closer. I don't know if you can see all these pleats here and all the pleats right here.
Hmm.
It's done with what is called a smocking machine, which
Okay.
you have like 30, 40 needles,
Uh-huh.
and then you actually put the fabrics there and it has thread. And as it comes out pleated, and then you iron that, and the pleat becomes permanent. But this section here is hand stitched in order to
Wow.
produce that. And
Mm.
this had wires in it, so all this had to be all hand stitched. So
The
there's
dress
some,
has wires in it?
yeah, this section here, the panel, the Egyptian panel, you see,
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Okay.
it had wires in order to keep it as a triangle,
Okay.
yes. That
All
makes
right.
and that
sense.
keeps the shape. Now the shoes, I can show you a shoe.
Wow.
Let me grab one. The shoe is made just like a real shoe.
Oh, she's
Wow.
gorgeous. Look at
That
that
shoe
shoe.
is beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. This one is airbrush. That's why you see that goes from dark green to light green, and it's all silk. And then I either dye the silk, or I have a pattern of the silk, or just remain the color of the silk.
Hmm.
And of course you have to do insole, the lining, just like a regular shoe with a sole that looks like leather.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
looks
in
beautiful.
this way, I use what is called, the ultra suede, which is a
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
synthetic,
Okay.
but it looks like leather. And
Okay.
when you use this, the good thing is that this acts as a sticky surface. So when you
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
post the doll, it won't slip.
Right.
And
Oh.
all my dolls, she doesn't stand now, but all my dolls can stand by itself.
Oh.
And that's something that is very unique. It's hard to find a good doll that will stand by itself without the aid of a stand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Those shoes are amazing.
Well, thank
Yes, a
you.
doll, the whole thing. So
Yes.
how many dolls are in that collection?
There's 6 of them,
Okay.
Okay.
Is
And
there
are
a
and
name for
they
the
and
collection?
they're one of a kind each.
okay?
Okay.
Yeah, and what's the name of the collection?
It's the Joe MacPhale design collection. It is my latest. It came out in 2019, I believe.
Okay. So how many of those dolls are available, if any, to purchase?
Though all 6 of them,
Okay. Okay. Good.
and
That's good. So
it
people
comes.
can
Each
find
one
them.
comes with a kit. They have a screwdriver and instructions of how to open the back plate to change the batteries and so
Mm-hmm.
forth.
Oh,
Okay.
that's nice. That's
Okay.
smart.
Now
That's
I've been
great.
making collections like for the toy shop. I used to have 7 dealers, including friends. And so one year I had to make 250 dolls. And you can
Wow.
imagine 250 pairs of eyes,
Wow.
250 pair of shoes, and wigs and so forth. So that was real hard with 2 hands. I'm also a I'm also a glass blower.
Oh, nice.
You're the man of so many
So
talents.
yeah,
Wow.
they call me the Renaissance man.
I bet
And
you they do, and rightly so.
and the way I start glass blowing is because I used to make all the ice out of glass. So I would sit there
Oh,
Okay.
and glass
okay.
blow. But once I start making collections, the problem with blowing glass eyes is that you have to match the pair. So you probably make
Yes.
10 eyes to get a pair out of it. And you can
Oh, that's a
imagine if
lot of
you have to do
work.
250 dolls, that's
Yes.
impossible.
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then I went to resin,
Okay.
and then I went to computer, and I designed my own irises for the eyes. And
Hmm.
my big dolls, I can tell you the secret, because if I tell you, I will have to kill you. No, just joking around. But
I can't
It
hear
won't,
what you
it
said.
won't, it won't be a secret long. It's okay. You can
yeah.
tell us.
But anyhow, the design of the eye now is made out of acrylic and resin, and that's one of my big seller points because the eyes on my bigger dolls, you want to hug them. You have to have it, and that's one of my big sellers. And it's the way I design and manufacture my eyes now.
We're
Nice.
excited about that. You have to send us pictures of that so we can
Sure.
put them in here in the video and on the website so people can see them. It sounds
So
amazing.
beautiful too.
Thank you.
The doll
Yes.
behind you is gorgeous. So
Uh,
I can't wait
Yes.
to see the collection, the
I'll
rest of the
tell
other
you what.
dolls.
Yes.
I have one of the big dolls here.
Okay.
This is Galen.
Oh,
You
Oh,
see
oh,
the eyes,
yes, her
yes.
and you
eyes
see the
do
face.
make
It's
you
like
want,
I had to have it.
yes.
Oh,
So he's a fawn, and
okay.
he's 22 inches tall,
Oh, wow.
and he's jointed. And this was one of my best sellers. I think it was only a 25-piece collection.
Okay.
Wow.
And then I had Dark Alice, and
Nice.
she was only 12 inches tall. And I think it was 50 pieces out of that, and it sold within 3 hours. I was on the show, and
Wow.
calls were coming in, and it was crazy. And it went like fire. I also do felting. So
Okay.
I did a collection for the toy shop. It was called Benny the Tinker
Hmm.
Bear, and it had a big jingle and with a ribbon. And
Hmm.
then the face was all felted, and everything else was fur that I had to design the pattern and all that. It was 3 feet tall, and as
Mm.
you
It's a
move it,
big
it have
one.
what is called a double growler, and it sounds like a bear, like a baby bear, back and forth. It was real cool. That was a great
That's
project.
wonderful. It sounds like it was. Now you keep talking about the toy shop. I thought you were saying you were speaking about like a shop that you, like, I don't know, your studio or something. Is the toy
It
shop
was
something else?
yeah, because toy shop was one of my dealers.
Okay.
I had 7 of them, but that was my main one.
Okay. Okay.
They discovered me and they kind of like put me out there, and I bloomed after that with them. It was a
Good.
great experience,
That's
and
good.
that's how I ended up all the way to friends with this big
Okay,
dolls. So it
Okay.
was great.
Very
that's
cool.
great. That's a good story. You are a
Wow.
wonderful storyteller. I mean, your
Oh,
life is
thank you.
just
Yeah, his life is
beautiful
just beautiful
journeys.
journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You name it, I made it. And if I don't, I figure the way to
Figure out how to
make
do
it.
it,
You know.
right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's so
So,
cool.
yeah, so I'm assuming that with the Guild, you've won a number of awards. Is that the case?
Yes, I have awards with IDEX, the
Okay.
Guild, you name it. I have plenty awards. I have also 7 magazine covers, including the
Wow.
Netherlands, which that was great to be, you know, posted in the front page. Uh,
Yes.
it, it was really nice. They did an interview, I sent it, and then they translated in the language, and then
Hmm.
finally I got a copy of the magazine, which you can see my website. It was a great experience.
Nice.
Sounds like it. What an honor.
I'm working on my eighth.
Well, hey, you got your first podcast, so
Yes, you got that
That's
out the
right.
way
Yeah,
now. It's great.
very exciting. Thank you.
Oh, no
thank you for
problem. Thank
joining us.
you
We're
for your beautiful
excited. This
work.
is,
My
yeah,
Yeah,
pleasure.
wonderful.
man.
Yeah, it's a wonderful interview.
Yeah.
And so when we first started, you were showing us a piece. I don't know if you can show it, if that piece is to be shown to everyone,
Sure,
the,
sure.
the mermaid.
Yeah, this is my new piece. It's just a work in progress. I still have to
Hmm.
make the torso, the head, and all that. And it's the
Okay.
mermaid. Right
Okay.
now, I'm working on all the scales, and that's
Okay.
literally cutting each scale by hand.
What are
Wow.
you
And
making this out of? What's the
this is
material?
polymer clay. And then
Okay.
once it's all finished, then I have to dissect the model to make a resin mold because I'm gonna make it into a collection. Like for example, it is very seamless, but you can see that it comes
Okay.
apart.
Oh.
So
Okay.
in that way, I dissect it depending on the shape on it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
then in that way, then I proceed to make the mold and then reassemble once it's casted and polished, reassemble the doll and then paint it or brush it. So to look like a real mermaid and a real human being.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Okay.
lot of airbrushing.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yes,
Whew.
indeed. So
Wow.
that's what I'm
Very
working on
nice.
right now. And that's going to be my one of the newest pieces for a collection. I don't know if I'm probably expand more into the fantasy. I love fantasy. I love fairies. When I
Mm-hmm.
started in 2007, when I came out as a professional one, that was the piece that I made that I was talking about, Shady. It is a
Mm-hmm.
fairy.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
I used to make a lot of fairies.
Okay.
And the way I like to portray them, if they have the open mouth, is I actually sculpt all the teeth with the tongue and everything. And
Wow.
then once that's cast and painted, then that's the last thing I put in the head. I insert and glue the teeth and the tongue. So you can actually see like a real mouth
Hmm.
open. Yeah.
Wow.
It's
That's
a
a
lot
lot
of
of work.
details. Yes.
Yes. And so you were talking about this the doll in green behind you.
Yes.
And so you were talking about the shoes and you're filming
So.
shoemaking. What's
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
for?
It's for a class. We put it online for a class.
Okay.
So
And
is it
yeah,
going to be a free class, a paid class? How are people going to
it's
be
a
able to
paid
access
class
it?
and it's gonna be offered and the convention coming up.
Okay.
And
Okay, and
so it'll be a little sliver of the convention.
okay.
And since
Yeah, the PD
everything,
Mag one. Okay.
unfortunately, with the COVID, everything is aligned. Well,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to offer it. It's
Okay.
it's 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 a nice, easygoing class, but at the end, you end up with a real shoe, just in miniature. And
That's
if you
cool.
decide to make a real shoe for yourself, it is the
You'll
same
know.
process, but instead of using glue, you will use nails and so forth. But
Okay.
it is actually how you will design and make a real shoe,
That's
making the
beautiful.
last and everything.
That's
Yeah.
great.
That's really nice.
That's great. And this convention is going to be we'll put the details in the links, but it's going to be October 15th through the 24th.
Correct.
Okay.
And
So
it's
for
gonna
anyone who's
be
interested,
great because we're gonna have demos and things like that, and I love to do demos.
hmm
It kind of inspire people to either be a better artist or to make learn a trick to make
hmm
Hmm.
something easier. So it's nice Um, not to deviate, but I used to also teach online,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember one year, I think it was 2010 or 11,
Mm-hmm.
I decided to work with Adele, and she have a website and its classes online. So I figured, well, I'm gonna do a ball jointed class and see how it goes. Maybe I get 30 students or whatever. Well, I broke the record. I ended up with 204 students from all over the world.
Wow.
That was crazy. So what I did, since I like to interact with the students, what I did, because of the different time of the world, I will take a day, specific day, and then twice a day I will have a Q&A with the students. So in that way, if they have a question, I will answer it. They also make albums so I can see the work and the
Okay.
Okay.
progress, and
Okay.
it's just great. It's a great experience. So in a show online and all that, you get to participate and give a little bit of yourself out there, and maybe someone will
Hmm.
catch it and have a good experience. So it's
Okay.
great.
And so this is the PD Mag. This is your
Correct.
second virtual show, and this is
Yes.
going
Hmm.
to be happening in October
October.
2021. So we just
Hmm.
want to make
Correct.
sure, because once we release these in 10 years from now, in theory, somebody could come back and hear this. And it's like,
Correct.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to go take that class. So, okay. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm stoked
Yes.
about seeing your class. And
Thank you.
the
Yes.
convention, just weird seeing, Sherry's going to be doing a class. There's lots of people doing the classes, so we're excited about that.
Yeah, a lot of good artists are there, so the public can come and experience not only the actual finished piece that you can purchase, but you can experience what it goes through the different demos and so forth to create a piece. Because a lot of people, they look at a piece and it's like, oh, it's beautiful, and it's so much money, and they don't realize the amount of time and the intensive work that you put to create that piece.
Hmm.
They don't appreciate that until they actually see what is
Hmm.
Yeah,
going into it, and then they go, oh my God.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
we
true.
see that even with dolls that are mass produced,
Hmm.
Yes.
because we'll have people come to us and ask us to make a doll. It's like dolls cost tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars before you even have a doll if you're doing mass production.
Correct.
So
Hmm.
that's one of the things that we talk about in this show, because we, like I said, we probably, I'm sure multiple times a month, we have people come to us and ask us about making a doll.
And I
So,
and I tell you, the amount of money that you have to put itself, like especially if you have a license, like my husband and I, we were gonna do a collection for Warner Bros. And it was the anniversary of Gone with the Wind, and
okay,
I do portrait sculpting.
okay,
So it didn't become realized because I didn't have shops that I will spread all the material. But I'll tell you what, in licensing is very expensive. They wanted
yes,
$10,500, something like that, upfront, whether you sold a doll or not.
yes,
And so people don't realize all that money that goes
Hmm.
into
yes,
when you mass produce, when you licensing. It is it is
Yes,
chaos.
it is pricey.
yes,
Yes,
yes. Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us and our listeners and
my
viewers.
pleasure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they need to know that. You all do
You,
some great work.
thank you.
So you have an accent, and one of the things that we like to do is we like to uplift diverse cultures.
Yes.
So you first generation or
I was born in Puerto Rico.
okay,
I'm Puerto Rican Scottish. My
okay,
dad was from Scotland. My mother was from Puerto Rico. They
okay.
met
That's
in
where the
New
Okay.
York,
bagpipe came from.
That's where the
Okay, now,
bagpipes came from, right?
yeah, yeah. Now we're
and
putting the story
I used
together.
to have way back. I used to have a company that was called MacPhale Designs, and I
Okay.
was the only professional kilt maker in Orlando, Florida. So I
Uh-huh.
used to dress the bands and all that. And
Hmm.
Oh,
I did it for a few years, and then I had to fold. It was too much work, not enough money. I
Hmm.
still made my own kilts for myself. But it was fun. I also had a porcelain collection that I came out with of different things,
Hmm.
um, teacups and so forth that had that MacPhail designs on
Okay.
cool. Yeah,
Wow.
that's very cool. So you said, so did your parents meet here? And you said they met here in
it.
America.
New
So
York,
in New York.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. So you were born here.
I was born in Puerto Rico.
Oh, you were born in Puerto Rico.
Yes,
Okay.
I was there until
Okay.
I was 18, and I grew up
Okay.
with my grandparents, and that's what I call mom and dad.
Oh, that's right. You
Okay.
said that. Now, okay. Now
Mm-hmm.
all of that's coming together for me. Okay.
I grew up in the
Okay.
old school.
Yes, with your grandparents in Puerto Rico. That definitely is old
Yes,
school.
talking
Yeah.
about discipline. It's like,
Yes.
oh, you have problem in the school, whack. Okay, there you go, straighten out.
Now you, yes. Now
You
you got
have the
another
actual
problem.
values of the culture, and to be able
Hmm.
to understand and be polite and so forth,
Mm,
which
Yes.
unfortunately that nowadays you kind of like lose that, 'cause you cannot touch your kids, you cannot say this to your kids and that. So all that, I think, is kind of like lost,
Hmm.
that old
mhm,
Yes.
school.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hexton,
we
who is a,
survived, right? We're still here. So,
Yes,
yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's okay. I think it's
yeah.
okay to get a spanking every once in a while, honestly.
yes, you have to.
So Hexton, who is a, he's a he's an doll influencer. He has an online presence, and he is Filipino, and he spoke about his family wanting him to have a good understanding of who he was as a Filipino. So I think the first 10 years of his life he spent in the Philippines, and then he came to America. And
Hmm.
I think that that's really important because, we talk about America as this melting pot.
Talking about the influence, the melting pot is correct, because it's like myself being Puerto Rican. Okay,
Mhm,
you can't say I'm totally white, or I'm totally black, or
Hmm.
it's such a mixture, and then you
mhm,
bring that influence into the states, and
mhm,
then you have all this multicultural in a pot together,
mhm,
and
Hmm.
it's amazing the things you can learn actually from each
mhm,
culture, and what you can exchange.
Right.
mhm.
So yeah, I'm just happy I
Yeah.
moved here.
Yeah,
That's great.
for me, America, I see it more as a stew because it's like you have all of these different cultures and peoples together. And I think it's important to embrace and love and respect each other as we are. When I think of a melting pot, I think of like a pot of cheese and you melt it and it all becomes one thing.
Correct. Yeah.
And when I think of America, America is a stew. So this person from China brings their culture and we learn from them and their culture. And this one from Puerto Rico and this one from, from wherever. And the goal is to come together as brothers and love and respect each other. So
Correct.
yeah, and your story is one of those beautiful ones, being multiracial and
Hmm.
being able to do the Scottish and the Puerto Rican, and that, I mean, it's beautiful. Thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge that we could hear in your voice
Oh, thank you.
that you were bringing another culture, and we wanted to uplift your voice and that culture. We want to make sure that we do that. We decided, we announced in January of 2021 that this year we were focusing on diversity. So you're helping us to meet
Yeah.
that
So
goal that we
yes,
said.
and some more
Thank
Yes.
you.
inclusion. Yeah,
I'm glad I
and
Yeah.
can help.
diversity.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
we
Yeah, we
appreciate
really
that.
appreciate it. Yes. So the next part of your journey.
Well, I just started sculpting again this week.
Hmm.
Oh
Uh,
Okay.
wow.
After my husband passed, I've
Hmm.
been a
Yeah, we're
mess for a whole
sorry.
year.
So
Thank
sorry to hear
you.
that.
Yes. Yes, we're sorry.
And I have been lost.
Yes.
Yes.
And then Sherry invited me to come over, and she just kind of like fired me up. So I start sculpting again. Now my brain is going again. So glass blowing, jewelry for dolls, different designs, maybe different electronics,
Hmm.
things like
Great.
that.
Yes.
You
So
have to
yeah,
be innovative.
yes. So everything that you're doing now that you're getting back into the groove, if someone wants to purchase those things, will they find them online at your studio?
They can buy
So they
them
can
on
purchase
through
them?
the website, correct?
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. That's
And I
great.
also, to mention, I also a master mold maker. So I do for artists, I supply the service of making their molds and casting their pieces. If they have a collection or small collection, a single piece, whatever, and I can
Hmm.
do that in my studio. So that's something I offer to help our whether it's doll making or just something small, and they need to be reproduced, and I can do that for them. So that's another thing I do through my website too.
Wow, that's
So
wonderful. That's
yes,
great.
with your mold making, is
Mhm.
it porcelain molds or is it molds that you can
It
use
could be
to?
Resin.
porcelain if they need to make it. I started when I was 14 years old producing
Hmm.
my molds out of for ceramic and porcelain.
Hmm.
But nowadays, because everybody's going to resin, then
Mhm.
nowadays I do silicone molding,
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
and it's kind of tricky. So you have to really master the art, how to separate the part, where you mark it, and it's a long process to make the
Mhm.
story short.
Mhm.
But to become a master of that, you actually have to really master the technique,
Hmm.
because you might have a piece that you only have one chance to make a mold out of it because of the material
Okay.
that is made. So
Mhm.
you can't say, oh, I can make the mold again. You might not be able to. Sometimes I
Okay.
get artists that they bring me a piece that or a mold that is 20 years old, which is crumbling, and I had to
Oh,
figure out how to cast that mold to produce a new piece and then produce a
Mm.
new mold for them.
Right.
okay.
So you had to have all that knowledge and technique in order to do that.
Wow.
So
Hmm.
once you have your mold, like if someone comes and they purchase a silicone mold from you for the
Oh,
resin,
okay.
can they have that doll mass produced someplace?
I can do the casting for them as well.
Yes. Hmm.
Oh, you do all of it.
That's great.
Yes,
That's
I
wonderful.
I
Wow.
supply all that service. Yeah,
What are the sizes that you can do the
I can
molds
go
for?
up to with what equipment I have, dissecting the pieces. I can go up to a 22-inch
Wow.
piece, which is
Okay.
Galen. What I show you, the Galen.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's a 22-inch piece.
And so how many did you do on a run? Like, do you have a
Well,
minimum
it's all
run or a
depending how many
maximum
they
run?
have and how many they have, what kind of materials they use, what budget they have, and so forth.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
could be a 25 piece, it could be 100. Now that will take some time because I only have two hands.
Yes.
It's not like you're going to China and you have a factory and have 1,000 people making a mass production.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So it's
Right.
a limited production, but it's a quality production. That's what I
Yes.
Okay.
offer out,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
it's here in the United States.
yeah,
Yes.
that's great. Yes, because
Wow.
that's another one of the things that we're asked about. And it's like, we don't know. That's why people are going to China. Some people are
Yeah.
going to Spain and
Yeah.
Russia. We were hearing about people going to lots of different places because they're saying we can't afford to have a doll made in America.
Well, that's the
Hmm.
problem that is not really cheap. My resin, you have to hit it with a hammer, break it.
Wow.
So you're getting a high quality product that is produced here in
Right.
little,
Right.
in little amount, but it's produced here in a high
Hmm.
quality in America.
Wow.
There's
That's
so many people
wonderful.
asking for that. Honestly,
It's on
boys.
my website that I offer the service, but the problem is that people think that you have to go to China because
Hmm.
they don't have the knowledge that there's still people like me here
Yes.
that
That's
it
Exactly.
what.
might not
Yes.
be super cost effective, but it's a high quality product and it's produced here in the States. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to pay for overseas. You don't have to
Hmm.
wait for the clearance on custom
Hmm.
and all that
Hmm.
stuff.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
one of the challenges that they're having, and we hear it
Yes.
all the time. We have,
Yes.
we have interviewed almost 60 something people already, and that is the constant, conversation.
Yes.
It's about going overseas. Why can't something be done here? And the pricing is too expensive here, and it's just so yeah. People need to know that there's a quality person that can do quality work here, and
Correct. And
Yes.
and I'm excited
for
about that.
example, my molds are produced like in the technique of making porcelain molds.
Hmm.
And when you
Okay.
open that mold, there's very little to clean. It's
Okay.
like you have no flashing on it in some of the
Oh,
Okay.
pieces. So that's how perfect the piece come out of the mold.
That's
wow.
And
great.
that's very difficult to make.
Hmm.
Mm,
And the material I use, the product have high quality, it's made
hmm.
here, and I'm proud to make it, proud to offer that service too.
Yeah,
So
that's very cool. Yeah, that's
We're
cool.
excited to share your information. And well, Joe, thank you so very much. This has been a wonderful interview, and you've had an amazing journey. This has been great. Art and electronics and travel and kilts. This has just been the best. This has been so much fun. It's been,
Yeah, it's been
I feel
delightful. It
happy
really
and
is.
blessed to have met you
Yeah,
today.
it
well,
really has
thank
been.
you. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. So I'm sure that our followers are probably just as excited to meet you as we are. So will you please give us information so that they can find you, like your website, that kind of information?
Sure, sure. The website is my name. It's www.joemacphale, and that's spelled MACP as in Paul, HALE.com.
Okay,
If you like,
joemcfell.com.
yeah, if you like to place a call, my phone number is 407-785-9341. And if I don't answer, please leave a message and I return your call.
That sounds wonderful, Joe. We're so excited.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have more photos and your bio on our website so people can find out more about you there, or they can go to your website. Thank you so very much for joining us on In the Doll World. This has been an amazing, wonderful interview. And you take care and stay safe.
Thank you. It's been my
Thank
pleasure.
you. All
Thank you
right.
so much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye now.
Bye.